The basic premise of this book is, in the midst of a chaotic, terrifying world that appears to be collapsing around you, a lot of how you feel, a lot of how you behave, a lot of what you get is not a function of what you experience, but a function of what you see. And this book is asking the question, how do we get through our current challenge? What we've done in the book is we've gone back into history and we've drawn on some of our famous forebears. These are just a handful of those that are discussed in the book. We wanted to do two things. We wanted to learn from these great people, but we wanted to then take their concepts and their experience and turn them into practical tools. So you will notice in the book, at the end of each chapter, there's an application section that says, here's what you can do today in 2009 with what George Washington had to deal with at his time. Here's what you can do today in our time with what Abigail Adams had to deal with in her time. At the back of the book, by the way, is I think the most important part of the book. It's the section we wrote to America's youth, and it basically says, if I was 17 again, here's how I do it this time. And so we talk about things that young people can do, because my kids, my 26 and 28-year-old, are very afraid. More afraid than them is my 12-year-old Sunday school class. I'm a Sunday school teacher, and I have 12-year-olds. I have 19 of them. And they don't know which way is up right now because they only hear the periphery of their parents' panic. And so that section is really for them, and I hope if you find the book valuable for your kids. Now let me briefly show you what we do in the book. We have divided the book, as you can see, into a prologue, an epilogue, and 8 chapters. The first chapter, the legacy, deals with what we can learn from the Pilgrims, from General Washington, and from Abigail Adams to deal with our challenges today. Hyrum's going to talk briefly about General Washington a little later today as we try to hit some of the highlights of the book for you. In the second chapter, the lens, which Hyrum's going to talk about, we deal with this connection between what you believe, how you behave, and the results you get in life. There is a common belief that says, my life is a product of the environment. We do not accept that. We believe that even in the most dysfunctional environments, people can not only survive, they can succeed. They can not only tolerate, they can triumph. And we're going to talk about 3 people there. We're going to talk about, as I said, how Francis Scott Key looked through that terror and saw the flag. We're going to talk about Jefferson and one of my heroes, after whom my son is named, General MacArthur. Chapter 3 deals with what we call the law. We're going to talk a little bit about that today because it has a lot to do with what you heard this morning about taking care of your health. And that section is based on the life of someone almost no one has heard of, an individual called John Barry, who is considered to be the father of our Navy. John Barry was a guy who had no resources, no opportunities, nothing available to him, and yet in battle after battle after battle defeated the British. The landscape deals with how Eisenhower balanced the challenges, particularly related to D-Day. In the section on the line, we talk about Staff Sergeant Bain. Staff Sergeant Bain is one of the heroes of the Iraq War. And we talk about how he had to deal with massive personal and physical trauma, and how he used that as an opportunity to build his life rather than feel that it was all over. In the leverage, we also talk about the writings of Dr. Martin Luther King there. In the leverage section, we talk about Kennedy, his group, his team, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. In the leader, Reagan dealing with Gorbachev and the whole fall of the Soviet Union. In the liberation, Hyrum's going to talk about that today. We talk about Iwo Jima and the Marshall Plan, how we have nobly and consistently dealt with our enemies at the end of conflict in ways that are not replicated anywhere else in history. The final section of the book is called The Light, because as you read the book and as you read these great stories and as you learn these skills and these practical applications from our history, the reality is this: sometimes you can do everything that's in that book and more, and it still doesn't work. And so the last thing we want to leave you with is this. Just sometimes, you just have to hold on. You have to find the tiniest speck of light, whether it's business light, family light, religious light, personal light, and you just have to stay focused on that tiny speck of light, sometimes for a long, long time. But know this, the light will come. We have been this way before. We have been through a Great Depression. We have been through world wars. We fought the most horrendous war in our history, the war between the states. We fought the Revolutionary War. We have been through 9/11. We have, as a nation, a character that not only survives challenge, it conquers challenge. The goal of life is not to survive. When the winds of life are whipping the mountain, the American people do not huddle in a cave and wait for the storms to abate. We link arms, we walk straight into the storm, and we climb to the top of the mountain, and we unfurl the banner, and we say that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and we will not be put down. We will not fail. We will find a way as we reach into our past, as we look into our future, to do what it takes to provide for the next generation of this country all the blessings that have made it ours.